What's happening, everybody? I'm Paul Sharp. I help people totally transform themselves. Listen, if you've been struggling, you're trying to make changes and you just can't, I get it. Information is easy to find. It's everywhere. It's a Google search away. Transformation, not so much. That's where I come in. You need a mentor. You need somebody who's doing it with you. You need somebody who's been where you are and has gone through everything you're going to go through, knows the roadblocks, the hurdles, the potholes, all that good stuff. That's me. That's where I come in, as well as my wife. She assists me. We have a community of people. We will work with you to help you, hold you accountable, and get you where you want to go. If you're interested in that, message me and let's get to work. I thought today I would talk about a question I get here and there, but recently I have been in 3 conversations with different folks about this topic: backup guns and off-duty carry for law enforcement officers. Now, I am no longer a law enforcement officer. I was on the job for 22 years. I retired from a full-time position in 2018, and then I worked for 2 more years part-time for an amazing chief named Lynn Dargis, who is an awesome guy who exemplifies everything you would want in leadership, leads from the front, mentors, all that. Everything you would look for, he did it. It was an honor to work with him and for him and serve that community. Now, since I'm no longer on the job, sometimes I feel hypocritical when people ask me my opinion on things about the job. Remember, it's been 6 years since I was full-time, every day, or at least almost every day, doing this job. I'm no longer there. Things have changed. Things have changed in a lot of ways. And so I don't comment on a lot of stuff. However, I can talk about gear selection, that kind of thing, and some recommendations. When I first started, we were issued a Smith & Wesson 4586, which is a single stack 45 in double action only. My pistol, my duty gun, had a 16-pound trigger pull every single time. There was no DA to SA, it was DA only, and it sucked. And it was recommended to us, especially guys on probation, that you might not want to even carry off duty. I'm not kidding, that was actually said. But if you do carry off duty, carry the issued pistol, because if you do get into something. Anyway, as soon as I could, I carried off duty a Beretta 92 because I had a lot of time with that pistol. I had carried it while I lived in South Florida, and it just felt like an extension of my hand. I could hit whatever I could see with that gun. And to this day, it is my carry pistol. It is my favorite, by far my favorite pistol. 1911s are right up there, but I always find myself migrating back to the 92. My point with that is that while the trigger systems were pretty similar, that first DA pull was pretty similar, the angle of the grip, all that was different. The controls, everything was different. And so I'm devoting an hour, 30 minutes to dry fire with a Beretta, and then 60 to 90 minutes of dry fire with the Smith & Wesson. Totally different thing. I'm basically having to pick up a pistol and rewire myself quickly and adapt to this different system, this different thing. And while it doesn't seem to be a big deal, it did hinder me a little bit. It didn't optimize my shooting experience, let's put it that way. Now, fast forward a few years, and we have a new range master, and he says, listen, you can carry whatever you want as long as it's on this list of approved pistols. I shifted over to Glocks. Now, I carried a Glock 17, or no, a Glock 22. Remember back in the day, the 40 Smith & Wesson was the cartridge. That was the caliber, man. I carried the Glock 22. No, it didn't blow up. It was not one of those kaboom Glocks. And I shot it a lot. I put a lot of rounds through that pistol, and I was able to run it successfully, but I was also carrying the Beretta off duty. Again, I don't know why. And then I went out and I bought a Glock 27 because that's the baby size Glock, but it feeds the Glock 22 mags. So I think it held 8 rounds, something like that. I can't remember now, so don't hold me to that. But the Glock 27 was like 8 rounds or so. And then but it would feed the 15 round mags from the 22. So I carried that as my backup gun on my body. I don't want to get into all that where cops carry backup guns. But I carried the backup gun in the form of a 27. Again, didn't carry it off duty. It stayed with my police gear. And then when I would leave at night, I would throw on my Beretta and go about my day. Again, silly. The controls, everything are completely separate and there's no crossover there. Now, fast forward towards the end of my career, and we are again an agency that issues a pistol. You can carry whatever you want, but as long as it's on the list, but they are issuing Glocks, Gen 4 Glocks, and G17s and G19s. And so I said, you know what? I'm teaching on the range here. I'm teaching classes and stuff. I should be shooting the pistol the department issues so that the people who don't buy their own guns, and remember it's Illinois, so it's not really a shooting culture or a gun culture. There are people who are they take the gun that they're given and they shoot it when they have to, and that's about it. I said, hey man, I'm gonna take one of the pistols and carry it, and I'm gonna do, and that way when I teach, I can relate to the students. Like, I'm shooting the same gun as you, let's go, right? Now, I started thinking about backup and off duty. And I realized that here we are again. I'm not optimizing my time. I'm not making the best use of my time with off duty versus on duty. There are maybe not better things that I could be carrying off duty, but there are things that would optimize my training time that I could carry off duty and as a backup gun. And with that, enter the Glock 26. My recommendations for officers to carry for off-duty or backup guns is to pick the compact or subcompact version of whatever you're issued. Now, most police agencies are issuing some form of Glock or M&P. Some are doing the SIG 320, but that's starting to wane. That little love affair is turning sour. But the point is, with all three of those weapons, you have the subcompact version that takes the full-size magazines. You also have all of the controls are in the exact same place as the full-size version. You also can put the sights on there that look exactly like the full-size version. If you have an optic, if you're running an optic on your duty gun, you can mount an optic on your backup and off-duty pistol. You also have the benefit, you can run the magazines. So that's a Glock 19 magazine. This is a Glock 17 magazine. So you can run as a backup, if it's a backup gun, if something happens where your hand's injured, the gun's disabled, you can go to your backup gun and still keep this thing fed from your belt, from the magazines that are on your belt. That's an advantage. The biggest thing though was this stuff, what I've already talked about. The sights being the same, the controls being the same. Everything here is identical to running the full-size pistol. Everything is in the same location. The sights are the same. The trigger is the same. It's a Glock trigger, so not gonna be great, but it's a Glock trigger. Just like my full-size G17 and G19, the triggers are similar enough that if I train on one, I'm trained on them all. My recommendation for backup gun, off-duty gun for law enforcement officers is to pick the compact or subcompact version of your duty gun and then train your butt off on those. They're going to be so similar. If you're training on the subcompact, you'll be training on basically the full size. Everything's about the same. If you train on the full size, then when you pick up the subcompact, it's going to index and point. The trigger's going to feel the same. The sights are going to look the same. The controls are going to be the same. There's so much crossover. You will optimize your time. Don't make the mistake I made, which is carry one gun on duty, another one off duty. If I were to go back and do it over, this is exactly what I do. What I did in the last 5 years of my career is what I would do from the beginning. Carry the mini-me version of your duty pistol, consolidate, and just dry fire like crazy. Shoot live as often as you can, compete as often as you can. With either one of these, you could compete in the bug division For IDPA, you could shoot your full-size version in SSP or carry optics if it's got an optic on it nowadays, and just do the work, man. That's my recommendation. I hope that helps a little bit. It's interesting to get these conversations or have these conversations, get these questions after I'm, to me, so far removed from law enforcement, but I appreciate it. Sometimes it's fun to just talk about the old days and what I would do differently if I could. All right, guys, have a good one.